Episode 101 is here.
101.
It's weird even saying that, I feel like.
Yeah, it's still weird for me when I look at the new page, or if I'm telling someone that we had to break everything out into three different years now, 2020, 2021, 2022. It just seems like such a long time that we've been doing this, but it's been a lot of fun. Last episode was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was it's the first time I had to beep out cuss words, so that was fun.
Yeah. So what ended up being like what, 13?
I don't remember. There was like 6 in a row within 30 seconds. And then it went a little while. It's kind of like me with cussing. It's like I can go the whole time without cussing, but once I like get approval and do it once, I'm gonna go all in, and
yeah,
that's cool. We do have a returning guest today, which will be exciting back on. But what's going on in your world, Tim?
Yeah, I mean, it's right now. My big high, man, is beating the rain on my run this morning. Man, I felt like a boss because as soon as I came back in, the skies opened up and it just dumped. So
right in the middle of March Madness, been a wild tournament. They always say that. St. Peter is going to win it all. Are they going to win one more game? Can they beat Purdue? What do you think tomorrow?
What is Purdue? What seed are they?
They're 3.
3.
They get some big guys.
Yeah, I love the Cinderella stories.
My theory, though, is guys who are from cities that are good basketball cities, you got to be a little worried about. St. Peter's is right outside New York. We'll see. So, how did you meet the Pocket Property guys originally?
Through William and Mary. So we had a mutual connection there, and interesting story in this sense of they provided an introduction because they thought that I could provide some website help, which is certainly true. But then during that initial conversation, talking to Stan, I was like, yeah, are you asking them, are you looking to raise capital? What are you trying to do? And then that opened up a whole new category of conversation. So from that point, gosh, it's been about a year and a half, 2 years. I don't know. Time goes so fast, and I totally cannot calculate COVID time anymore.
Pre-COVID, COVID, post-COVID.
Yeah, and I don't even remember if it was during COVID or not. But we started talking about raising capital and getting everything set and ready to go. And
we need to have quadrants of COVID too, like the scary part of COVID, where like lockdown COVID, like. Okay, like getting back into the world. It's interesting. When you say introduction, though, I always I am one that is very, I question introduction. So when someone's like, "Can you introduce me to someone?" I'm like, I just met you. Like, let's figure this out first. Like, are you one, Tim, that's like cool? Like, I'll meet with anyone. How, or do you introduce a lot of people?
Yeah, I'll typically, I'm always really generous with the first meeting. And I'll do everything through Calendly, so I make sure that that I don't allow myself to get booked for too much of a time period, and then we always can book a second meeting afterwards. But yeah, I'm always pretty cautious about that. But the thing with the guys from Pocket Properties, welcome guys, is that super coachable in the sense of they listen and they act. So I'm always looking for a company that will run figuratively as fast as I like to run. And so it's like we'll have a conversation, we'll talk about the things that they want to talk about. They take down their action items in terms of what needs to be done, and then it's just like before you know it, those action items are done. They schedule a reoccurring call, and they just continue to knock things out, take advantage of opportunities, and that's like the dream people that you want to work with. So many people aren't that way.
And just to give you more props on that, the amount of people that will get a link and we ask them to answer, 3 questions that are like, no, this is too hard, or I don't want to, or whatever, or just too lazy, whatever it is. Like, it's an unbelievable amount. It's got to be 90% of people get asked to be on the show or asked to be on the show and then won't even fill out a form.
Right.
And then even if you take that and put it into some other situations, like, hey, book me here just to have a call, have nothing to do with an interview show or anything like that. Like, people are lazy. So like, if you just put a little bit of effort into something, like, you can be successful in life, I feel like.
Not Stan and Josh. I mean, those guys, you guys run so fast that if anything, I'm telling you guys to throttle back a little bit, and because you guys just go, which, I mean, I love it. It's awesome. I love the energy and everything that you guys are doing. So for those that don't know about what Pocket Properties is, welcome to the show, guys. Tell us a little bit about Pocket Properties.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, first off, thank you for that great introduction, Tim. Thanks for having us on. Super excited. So I'm Josh. I'm the CEO, and Stan with me, who's the original founder and COO. So I'll let him kind of introduce Pocket Properties, and we'll go from there.
Yeah. So what is Pocket Properties? We get that a lot. It's changed over from the very conception. Like we said, we've been on this project for about a year. So Pocket Properties, really our main mission is to innovate and democratize real estate investing through technology. So what are we building? Really, what we're building is a mass-based solution that allows that follows the standard two-party marketplace model, similar to eBay or Fiverr, where individuals who own real estate assets can come on, raise capital from non-accredited investors, or even in the case of more traditional private placement funds, they could come on and quickly raise capital from their investors on a private marketplace and onboard those investors and keep track of any cap table management or capital management needs that they may have throughout that process. We do this through utilization of smart contracts. So we utilize blockchain. As you know, everybody says the word blockchain, throws it out there. But really what the purpose of it for is for the core concepts of it. The ability to track transactions, the ability to automate many of the back office processes like accounting, investor management, investor onboarding, and really keeping track of their securities and their issuance, while also enabling P2P transactions for their client base.
It seems like a lot of people are getting into like syndicates of real estate too recently. I mean, are there any similarities in that?
Correct. Yeah. So, we're thanks to the technology that we're utilizing, we're flexible, and whether a person can do a syndicate, whether it's the traditional real estate fund. So, thinking, a small size REIT, or individual properties such as, a person wants to raise capital to do a fix and flip for their real estate project that they may have. So we're fairly flexible in the things that we can do and the real estate owners that we can benefit.
And do they have to be accredited in this world?
So that's a great question. The answer is yes and no, right? So we operate a public marketplace, which currently operates under Reg CF, which allows for unaccredited investors. This is our MVP. This is a project that we just put out. There's some limitations as far as how you can transact the liquidity events, hence why we went with the debt model for it. Since there's a maturity date, people don't have to hold it for 5 to 10 years. But on the private marketplace, which we're currently working on, that's more so for the accredited investor, which allowing them the ability to have those P2P transactions. So if they want to exit a position, they don't have to go through that fund manager and able to do so, since they are the actual holder of the security and not the actual fund holder.
And you guys have had, I mean, you're attracting a lot of people right now in terms of waiting list.
Sure.
And then with the big launch of the MVP, I mean, what's been the reception so far?
Yeah, it's been definitely good. It's fallen right in line, which is really good for us to see with our kind of standard market research we did and kind of predictions. So that's been great. We amassed over 3,000 waitlist members. A lot of those members were definitely, I think, focused on the end product, which we're still building towards, which is that platform where it can be peer-to-peer trading, buying, selling, sharing, shares of real estate. So conversion was really effective. We, MVP launched we're on week 3.
Week 3,
week 3. It's a little bit of a blur. It's been exciting past 3 weeks. But we're seeing week over week growth of users converting, which is great. And we're at almost 21% for our offering filled. So quick conversion, seeing that kind of tracking exactly what we thought for numbers to fill up this deal that we have presented on our MVP. So that's been great. A lot of fun.
Yeah. Can you take us just through a who's your target audience? Who's your target customer, your ideal customer? And then just take us through a quick use case scenario. It's 24-year-old, 30-year-old, whatever the case is, and what do they do? Yeah,
sure. So I'll start off with kind of, I think, our target audience, which we're looking, to capture. And then, I'll let Stan get into the use case really there and why we came up with that. But really, when I came onto the project, one of the things that was attractive to me is presenting real estate in a way that's accessible, but also capturing what we've seen over the past couple of years, which is there's a huge uptick in people that are, millennials on the older side of millennials, the younger millennials, and then even not as much for us, but those are our core target. But then even some of those a little bit older Gen Z, where over the past few years, we've seen a trend with things like Robinhood, Webull, Coinbase, all these different platforms where people are, taking control of their investment and really educating themselves instead of the traditional ways of, using, a broker or something like that they want control. And so we looked at that and said, well, what's next? Real estate. No one's making that attractive. No one's marketing that to these people. No one's really captured this massive audience that has shown year and year, time and time again, that they want to invest, they want control, and they do care about where their money goes and how they're spending it. So really our goal is that kind of millennial, I would say, age range, 30, 25, 30, 35 plus. That's kind of our focus. People that are more novice investors, but really excited about getting into it. And their hesitations in the past are for things that we think we're solving. One of them being, education. Most people don't know. They don't have the upfront capital needed, or that, they just don't know where to start. They don't know the information about real estate and all the various deals and intricacies that can come into all the different investing scenarios, or they don't feel comfortable with something they found to invest in. And that's what we're looking to kind of bridge the gap in. I know it was a little long-winded there, but.
So I remember, and Tim, you probably remember this too, but like when I first met you in 2012, 2013, a lot of kids, call them kids, a lot of people, a lot of founders would be like, we're going to build Facebook for XYZ, Facebook for that. Then it kind of became Uber for this for a little bit, and that's the way that people describe stuff. You just said Robinhood, right? I mean, so are you guys Robinhood for real estate? I mean, is that the easiest way to really say it from the 2012 way of thinking back then?
I would kind of.
Yeah. Kind of. That's a great start.
And the only reason I say that is while we do have that marketplace component, we're more of the NASDAQ style for real estate. Now, what do I mean by that? We're a marketplace, right? So there's people, just like on the stock market, who have the companies who want to go public, who want to raise capital. They go on the NASDAQ, they go on the stock market, they raise that capital from, us, the end user, the investor. We're more in that line, but we do have that, that customer facing aspect to where they can actually come in through our platform and purchase that particular security, that particular asset.
I think a lot of people struggle with how to explain their business. A lot of CTOs are terrible at explaining their business, right? I mean, the greatest pitch of all time is, we were using MP3 players for 10 years, probably even longer. And it was like, oh, there's a gigabyte worth of MP3 players. Then this guy named Steve Jobs comes and says, oh, it's, 1,000 songs in your pocket. Really explains that and makes it understand. I think a lot of people were using that kind of marketing angle, the Facebook for whatever, because they couldn't articulate what they actually do. Have you guys found in communicating with prospects, with actual customers, with some of these investors, is it easy for them to grasp pretty quickly? And when they don't, what do you do to kind of bring them back in, reel them in, so that the person who probably is a correct customer will actually get in? Because I think a lot of times people struggle terribly with this, and even though that person would be the exact right fit, there's a communication breakdown.
Yeah. And real quick, I mean, like, my question kind of along with line with Zach, I'm thinking like the millennial 25 to 30-year-old, do they just get it off the bat because they're so used to fractional shares because of Robinhood? And, and is there more questions from the older generation because they're like, you're trying to do what on block what? I don't understand.
Right. Yeah. So it's funny, being a two-sided marketplace, we serve two kind of very different demographics. When it comes to the end user, the millennial, we call them capital providers. They understand right off the bat, like, hey, this is like Robinhood, but it's for real estate. When we really get into talking to the people who are providing the assets, providing the properties, we take more of that, hey, this is the NASDAQ approach. You're essentially taking your company and your asset and raising money for it. So we have kind of two different ways depending on, which client base that we're talking to, how we describe it. But generally, we see that the capital providers, the end user, generally either gets it or they don't. There's really, we haven't seen anybody in the middle. Once again, we have kind of a very specific target audience that we're going for. These people have invested before. They're familiar. They know about Coinbase. They know about Robinhood. So they understand the concept of alternative investments already.
Yeah.
And then there's those people who are just been like, I have a 401k, I have an IRA, and it's managed completely. This product isn't quite for you. We're not trying to make it seem like this product is for you,
Yeah. And Zach, to, I guess, answer your first part, it's a super interesting question because I think it also falls in line with the just entrepreneurial journey in general, which is when we first got into a lot of, even pitching, I would say, yeah, we definitely left some people confused at first as we tried to figure out even ourselves, like, where are we coming into the market? How are we positioning ourselves? What's our strategy? But I would say now we don't really get as many questions. I would say now we really have narrowed down not only who we want to talk to as far as investors go. So they already have an understanding, but also just overall, when we talk to anybody, we don't get many questions. If you would have asked us that 6-7 months ago, we would have said, oh man, I wish he wouldn't have asked us that, because we definitely leave some people confused. But I think that's part of the journey, right? Like,
well, I think too many people try and get cute with it too, where they're like, "Oh, I'm the fairy dust of this," and it's like, eh.
And one thing that and I'm not trying to give myself credit here at all, but just make me feel good about myself for a moment. But one of the things that I told Josh and Stan was, every time you pitch, and I tell this to everybody, every time you pitch, document every question that was asked.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you see a trend, then you have a hole in your pitch, and you need to address that the next time that you pitch. So hopefully you guys took that advice, and that alleviated a lot of the questions that continue to be asked.
Yeah. Not only that, and also, had a huge, again, also from you, Tim, but huge advice we got from, another William and Mary connection recently really helped us understand that and get better as well, which was, Bay, which was great as well for us. So yeah, thank you for that. We definitely take that advice and run with it and see how we can improve, because you guys definitely know a little bit more than us, that's for sure. So always trying to take the advice and apply it, because then it only helps us. Well,
right on cue, we got a question for you guys to, add to the bank, if you will. Matt Castillo says, I'm a novice investor. You've spoken to how people can raise capital for the project. How do I, as a retail individual investor, make money through your platform?
Yeah, that is a great question. Great question. So.
Yeah. So there's a couple of ways that you can make money through our platform. The one that I'll discuss the most in depth is what we currently have up, which is a debt offering. One of the key components of our platform is we have the flexibility to do both debt or equity offerings. So how does somebody raise money from this particular deal that we have up? So essentially, what happens is the user will come on, they'll make an account, they'll invest into this particular asset. You can pull up the assets info card, all that stuff that has all this great information about it. And on there, you'll see that this particular one is a debt offering. So essentially what that means is that you're coming in, providing this individual capital as a quote unquote loan. So instead of them being, for fix and flips and real estate renovation, you can't generally go to a bank. So you have to go to what's called a private lender. So in this case, you're taking the place of that private lender, but as a collective. So you'll come on, you'll invest, let's say $100 into this with a pool of other individuals. So what happens is that loan goes out. There's a preset interest rate. This current one is 10%. So how you make money on your capital is that individual who took out that loan, is doing that renovation, pays back interest over a set period of time, whether it's 6 months, 12 months, or whatever is agreed upon during that conversation. They pay back interest on that money. Then that interest is then dispersed to the investors at the close of that offering, or what we call the maturity date. So if it matures in 12 months, then after 12 months, your money is then returned to you with the interest on top of it.
And if it's not through debt, then
so if it's not through debt, and one of the things that we're currently working on is getting a more traditional style real estate fund up that's equity based. Now the payout's a little bit different. This particular one that we're working on it pays out your standard dividends yearly. It'll be about a 5-year fund. So they pay out dividends yearly, and then there's a liquidity event at the end, such as a refinance or the sale of that particular asset. Once that sale or refinance happens, the investors are then paid out and then given returns or profits based off of what's agreed upon for that particular fund and that particular fund manager.
Tim, when you've done syndicates from just a investment standpoint, how does the rollout of cash happen typically? And do you get like a K1 every year? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, I mean, so from the syndicate side, you have your syndicate lead, and they're the decision maker for the rest of the people that signed up for the syndicate. So if there is an acquisition or an IPO, then that syndicate lead can make the decision in terms of, do we distribute the cash? If it's stock, then the syndicate lead will determine, hey, we're going to hold on to this stock for X amount of time, or we'll distribute it to the members of the syndicate and they can do what they want to do. But you're really at the mercy of the syndicate lead. They're the ones that are making the decision for you.
I love a good air quotes.
Yeah.
I think.
Well, I mean, it's just assuming that you're with the right syndicate lead. I mean, they should understand what the market, the direction of the company, and you have full trust that they're going to do what's in the best interest of the syndicate for future months or years, whatever that might be.
Got it. So Stanley, this is your baby, right? I mean, this is your brainchild that you came up with it.
Yes, I did.
So how, and I can't remember if we talked about this last time or if you guys even said it today. Terrible memory apparently today. But like, how did it come about? Like, how did you decide this is something that you wanted to build?
Well, when I was down at William & Mary, I ended up getting into real estate my junior year. It's funny. I started just making cold calls for a local real estate investor. So he could, in return for him teaching me kind of the ropes and, how to get started and all that stuff. Eventually, we parted ways and I ended up getting into what's called real estate wholesaling, which is, really acquisitions for larger investors. So what I would do is I'd go and find someone who had, dilapidated property or abandoned property. Essentially negotiate a deal with them and then take it to a larger investor, say, hey, look at this deal, it's great. And then get a fee from, essentially procuring that deal for them. So, that was really my step into real estate. And, I was successful at it, made enough money that I was able to pay off any loans that I had for school. It really just kind of at that moment understood the power of real estate. And that kind of led me to say, hey, how can I let other people break into the real estate market? How can I allow them the chances that I had, afford them the chances that I had, but they might not have the same network that I had. So that's what really led to Pocket Properties, was really just a way for me to take down a lot of the barriers that I experienced when I was breaking into the real estate market, and save a lot of people a lot of headaches, a lot of heartaches, from having to go through all the extra steps that I had to experience.
It was funny. I was telling someone recently that a couple of people in my family are adopted. This is a completely big switch, but like I was telling some people in my family are adopted, and I said, yeah, I think adopting a kid is like $75,000, and they were mind blown by that. And so I was like, all right, well, let me Google it real quick and figure out what it is. And so it's like $35,000 to $75,000 is the average adoption to adopt an American child, a U.S. born child in America, something like that. And somewhere in there, it's basically like you got to hire a adoption coordinator and legal services, right? Which is like this special person is going to take you through the process and make it really expensive. It kind of seems like in real estate, there's some kind of aspect of that in it where it's like, oh, if you want to do this, you have to have this special thing, special person, whatever. And it's kind of like, why, right? Why are these things that like don't have to be so difficult and are big problems and people want them fixed, yet we make it so difficult for people to actually, get access to those things? Why do you think I know the adoption thing was a big swing, but
I see where it ties in. I see where it ties in.
There are these coordinators, lawyers, whatever, that make things so difficult. Even like raising money in general, like the legal aspect of, you're going to pay this guy $100,000. You're like, $100,000. I could have used that to hire someone else. Like this is.
Yeah. Me personally, I would say right off the bat, it's one way to keep the insiders, and it's a way to keep the outsiders. And I would imagine there's probably only a couple % of Americans that can afford just to put up a down payment to even try to finance a home. But then if you're looking at investment property where it's a second home, then it gets even more difficult.
Exactly. And
80% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck, that alone,
like Tim said, that's one of the big things that, makes real estate investing so difficult is the amount of capital. If you're not one of the people who has large sums of money, not even large sums of money that you can take risk with.
Yeah, disposable income.
Disposable income. Real estate's a very hard industry to get into unless you do the gritty, the very gritty cold calling real estate agent route. Most people in the U.S. don't make enough to have to put $20,000 down on a $100,000 home, if you can even find one.
Yeah.
Because the down payment for an investment property or fix and flip from private lenders is generally about 20%. So people don't have that type of capital laying around a lot of the times. And speaking on why is it so difficult? Why, just in general with real estate, there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong. There's a lot of people that you have to pay. Some of those people aren't necessary. Some of them are, like title companies. They're 100% necessary. But yeah, it's just a very middleman process. Everybody wants to get their hands in it. It's an old process. So I understand where it came from. But once again, and that's why our value proposition. Yeah. Innovating real estate investing through technology. Yeah. As we know, real estate investing has been the same since its inception. You buy a house the same way, you still have to go to the law office and sign for closing to this day.
Yeah.
When you can do everything through the internet, DocuSign, even notaries are online.
Yeah.
So, it's just an industry that's kind of been stuck in its ways. A lot of it's been due to regulation. But now that regulation is starting to loosen up a little bit, people have the ability to try these new ideas, try these new concepts, and try to make real estate investing a lot more friendlier.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing I would even say too is like, it's even the same as, starting a business is. I think that's something people don't think about. Right. And that was one thing when I entered into real estate investing that I learned very quickly. It was similar to when I had started other businesses. And I did not think that at first. Everyone thinks, oh, it's going to be easy. Even if they have initial capital that they think is disposable, it's never enough. So that was my experience and continues to be an experience with one investment property, is that looking at it like a business, and really it's time consuming. It takes a lot of connecting of the dots and networking. Even for me to find a contractor that I can trust, that I know is going to be fair, give me good pricing, that can get the work done and do it consistently. That was huge. Until I found that was a massive thing that I constantly thought about with this. What if something goes wrong? Who am I going to find? And where our property is it's kind of isolated. It's not near. Well, it is near a big city, but where it is, it takes a lot to get it out there. So it's in Long Island, New York, and there's not a lot of people out there. It's kind of secluded, way out on the island, far. So for me, even that's what brought me to Pocket Properties. I went, when Stan initially kind of gave me the rundown, I said, yeah, sure, that makes sense. I completely understand this, and this would be awesome, even from my experience, so.
How did you guys meet?
Yeah, that's a great question. And one that goes back a few years, but I actually hired Stan originally. So I originally, not to get into this huge thing about me, but when I first came to Virginia, I'm from Baltimore originally, but I came here to start a business. So I came here and opened a sales and marketing firm in right down the street, actually, from where we're sitting right now, which is come full circle. And I had in that first year, so what was that, Stan? That had to be 2017 or 16?
17 is when I started.
17. So summer of 17, about a year after I had launched that business, it was going really well. And I decided, this would be a cool opportunity if I there's a lot of great schools around where my office is. I wonder if I put out an internship, if maybe I could not only get just a high quality individual, which would be fun for me to develop, but also see if I can give back and kind of provide opportunity through, an internship, which would be fun. It was more of a sales internship. So I thought, this will be cool if I put really tough targets and then see if these interns can hit them. And so I had that done, and I had a few interns. No one made it even through, I think, the first 3 weeks. Not that it was insane, but it was very structured, very consistent. And Stan, I'm sure, can tell you it might have been a little demanding. But Stan was actually the only person to this day that I ever had. And I, ran that and those businesses for over 5 years. And I offered that every summer. And Stan's the only person that completed it successfully. And so that always, you always remember something like that, especially because, and I think he wouldn't mind me saying, he took the internship because it was putting him out of his comfort zone. I was putting him in front of people, 30, 40 people every single day, and, putting a little bit of, I think positive pressure to, close some deals with, obviously help, guidance, and tools. And he was, constantly excelling and developing. So always remembered that. That's how we first met. And then, yeah, I guess I'll break there because it could keep going and going and going.
Well, one thing that I really appreciate, going back to the previous question, was the fact that, like, for younger people, they can't afford the $20,000-$30,000 that it would take for a down payment. Or you give a platform that's educational in the sense of, hey, this is something I would like to do in the future, but let me learn on the small stakes poker table, if you will. Let me throw $100, $200, buy a few shares, see how all this plays out, and understand the game with low dollar amounts. And if you lose a couple $100, you lose a couple $100, as opposed to, hey man, I'm going all in. Kind of like to your point, Josh, starting a business, putting all your chips out there, maxing out your credit cards, only to find out it's not going to work, and then you're left with nothing. So what you guys are able to do from an educational standpoint, to democratize the ability for younger people to get into the game is super cool, and that's one of the things that I like so much about what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's definitely a big aspect, and we didn't even touch on that, but something Stan and I think is really important in this type of industry, and will continue to be important, is that social, we call it the social investing aspect. And what we mean by that is the educational piece, but also for people to feel more and more comfortable. So like an example of that is, if we onboard somebody and they're saying, hey, the example would be the deal we have now, right? It's a description, and our goal is to find more and more of these type of people that don't have a problem. And the next steps would be they have even a profile where you, as like you said, Tim, a younger novice investor, can go, oh man, I don't know if I want to invest all this money, but let me see what Pocket Properties is about. Oh, this deal seems pretty cool. Let me click this video. Oh, wow, this investor has done tons of deals, 10 years of experience. Here's a link to their website with all the deals and what they're doing. Right. This makes me feel, pretty comfortable. And like you said, I'll invest $10. Yeah.
So from that standpoint, you're almost like an angel list for real estate as well. Yeah, in terms of.
And that's the kind of the approach that we're taking. One of the things that we're doing with this MVP is just trying out different things, seeing what people like. So we're like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we're currently working with a individual out of Texas to see if we can get a fund structured
later today. Even we have a call.
later today. To see if we could get some type of a fund structured. He currently already has a fund down in Austin, Texas. That's for accredited investors. That's raised a substantial amount of money. One of his things is he also owns a real estate agency, a brokerage. With a bunch of agents. But the thing is, none of his agents can even invest with him because of the way they're not accredited. So we're currently working on this fund with him, which would be specifically towards these individuals. He's a well-established real estate investor. He has a great track record with funds. He's willing to do stuff with unaccredited investors, but just until very recently, the landscape hasn't allowed him to do so. So that that's one of the things, like you said, with Angels List, there's individuals who have great track records who are reaching out, getting more clients into their particular fund. So that's, that is a fairly accurate comparison in that sense.
So recently I've been thinking about things that I've gotten better at over time. And it's things that I put a lot of reps into, right? And then I think about things like, I really wanted something, but I didn't really put a rep into it. So it made me think about I don't know, 5th grade, I wanted to be in this band. And so I'd show up to band practice, but I never really got into it. I never really learned how to play the guitar. I bought a guitar, but I didn't learn how to play the guitar. It seems ridiculous. And there's a lot of people that might want to be a social media influencer or whatever it is. And they do very minimal work to start seeing success. And so I was thinking about this on a run recently. Tim will like this as an avid runner, but I was like, why am I getting better at this? Right? Why have I started to see that I'm improving significantly over time? And last week's guest, Jason Calacanis, says it's all about reps, right? Be Steph Curry, keep shooting those threes. And I believe he said this on the replay. It was, people are shocked that he makes the shots, but if you see him practice all day, he's doing it all day. He's putting in the reps. And so because I'm running a lot more, because I'm swimming a lot more, because I'm doing a lot more athletic things, I'm seeing improvement in those because I'm putting in the reps. Same thing goes with business, right? You can't just want a successful business. Yeah. You have to put in the reps to do it. And so you have to do the motions to see that success. And I think sometimes you have to put yourself, I think almost every time you have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations. And I strongly believe that what I'm hearing from you is you've taken an apprenticeship not internship approach to some of the ways that you've engaged into your career, into your business. And the way I look at those things differently is an intern, someone who's like, oh, give me college credit, let me do this for 3 months, let me go make your coffee, whatever. An apprentice is someone who might actually be that same thing, but is focused on learning as much and immersing themselves as much as possible to learn the trade so that they can make an impact in that at a later time. And I think that's something that more people need to do. I wish I would have done that in college when I was in journalism school. I think I would have like actually maybe quit journalism school had I realized that like I didn't like that world. But I think more people, if like they want to do something, like go do that act, like figure that out. And like you're I feel like Stanley, you were kind of clowning like, oh yeah, you know, I was cold calling, you know, and people don't want to do that. Well, the reason you're seeing the success now is because you did those reps before.
Oh, 100%. You know, and I'm a very introverted person, so you know that it's funny because when I first started working with Josh, if he had told me in the most layman terms what I would be doing, I wouldn't have taken it. If he had told me I'd be out there, you know, one day I walked 11 miles to sell people internet and cable. And
that's right.
11 miles in a day. You had told me that, I would have been like, no. But you know, once again, it puts you. It's first off, not only is it an opportunity, because everything's an opportunity, really how you look at it.
Yep.
But when you get in those kind of uncomfortable situations, you start to adapt. You start to, you know, not panic and start looking for the solutions.
Yep.
Like you said with the reps too, it's. You do it over and over again, you get more confident. You're like, okay, well, I know when you know, I'll put it this way. When we pitched, I remember pitching Tim the first time, and he's like, okay, this sounds cool. I like you. This sounds cool. I have no idea what you're doing per se, you know, the ins and outs. But, you know, even to when we got in, I did a pitch with, it was an angel pitch for William and Mary. Tim was there. Even then answering the questions, you know, they give us a question, we didn't have a good answer to it. They give us a question, we're like, you know, fumbling through the answers. But we've done it so many times now, over and over and over. When those questions come up, you know, just because I've done them, just because I've refined them,
muscle memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I want to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to touch on something that you haven't done before, and that was releasing the MVP.
Yeah.
I want to hear about that process because, I mean, to your credit, you guys did it. And to so many other founders out there, they're so afraid to put that MVP out that they don't even get that far.
Yeah,
so
sure.
What was it like leading up to it? What was it to the point where we're like, here we go, we're pressing the button, so to speak, and this thing's live? Yeah, I would love to hear.
I remember the
journey.
day because I think I sent an email out the day that it changed. So
But
I'll let Stan give the start there.
Yeah, I would say the build up to it. You know, one of the things we're doing, we're in an industry there's no blueprint quite yet. It's not like people, you know, going out and starting a coffee shop. You could probably Google how to do that. So a lot of the times it was, all right, we're going to run with this idea. We're going to run with this idea. This is it. Then you're like, oh, this isn't it. You got to change it. You know, so a lot of, you know, a good chunk of our time was really just figuring out how do you actually do it.
Yeah.
Even before, you know, thinking about the MVP before this, you know, so it's that whole process was a lot of figuring out trial and error. This isn't going to work. All right, what's the solution for this particular issue we're running in? Yeah. You know, that led to a slight pivot. For us, one of the big questions that we would always get is like acquisitions. And we're, you know, how are you going to get properties, this, that, and the third? We came up with an answer. We were like, this monetarily is not going to work. So we had to make that pivot. So, you know, that pushes back, you know, the launch of the MVP because you're like, all right, I got to go through and redo everything.
Yeah.
But, you know, once we kind of nailed it down, it was straight to the MVP. Aside from a couple of hiccups along the way, as far as on the technology end, you know, it went smoothly. We had everything in place, everything that needed to be in place, especially from the compliance end, which is the most important. That's the biggest killer for fintechs, for securities companies. If you can't get the compliance stuff straight, then you might as well not even work on the MVP. So once we got that straight, it was, I don't want to say smooth sailing, but a lot of the barriers have been moved out the way.
Yeah. And I would even say, Zach, to your point earlier, it's to get, and Tim, to answer your question, for us to get to that point, it was that mindset of like exactly that. I tell the team all the time is an analogy I love to give, and it's a quick, short one, but I think it exactly puts out what you were saying, Zach. Is I always say, stay in the deep end. And what I mean by that is, if you think of an analogy of a pool, if you're in the shallow end, you got a safety net. You can stand on the bottom, you can grab the side, but if you stay in the deep end in the middle, you got to tread water. You got to learn how to float. You got to learn how to stay up and, constantly keeping yourself uncomfortable, and so when we looked at, okay, what is Pocket Properties? What's our timetable? That was one of the things I challenged the team with is we have to put a hard date on this, because if you don't, then it just keeps getting pushed out. And that's something I'm found in my, short professional career has been extremely valuable to me, is the working backwards approach. So set a goal, whether that be 3 months down the line, and then work backwards every single week until you get to today. And now today and tomorrow are the most important day in that journey. Because if most people start from today, and then if something comes up, most people go, oh, well, you know what? That won't be a big deal. We have 3 months till we're launching MVP. But 3 months, they don't realize if I don't do today and tomorrow, that becomes 4. That becomes 5 months. Next thing you know, there is no launch. There is no MVP. So that was a big focus for us, is let's work backwards. Let's set this date. Not that, it's the end of the world if we don't hit it, but what that did is put pressure on the whole team that we're not just talking concept anymore. This needs to become a real thing. We need to hit milestone goals, and we need to get a product out. It doesn't need to be the best product in the world. That was another thing, helping the team understand minimal viable product. We're a startup. We don't need to come out with what Robinhood looks like now, or what Meta looks like now. All of these things. And I always use the example of Snapchat. I remember when Snapchat came out, and my friend told me, hey, check out this thing. I think it's going to be huge. And I was like, this is not a great app. It's very grainy picture quality. Like, all I can do is send a picture back and forth. I don't know. You look at it now, and that business is scaled completely. Well, I guarantee if you talk to their founders, what they would say is that was MVP. That was proof of concept. That was minimal viable product.
Well, Instagram was only on the iPhone to start, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like little things like that. Yeah. It's
exactly. And now you look at now, and that company is exploded, right? So that's kind of some of the things that helped us get the MVP out, some of our focus.
And the great thing is, not every single user went away. You still have people. You have people in the waiting list, and that now that first rep being the most important. Maybe it went off the rim and it went in. Maybe it went off the rim and you didn't get the right roll and you missed a shot. But now 2.0, 3.0, I mean, it's just going to get easier and better and continue to improve the entire time.
Yeah.
When I was at the gym the other day, I went to the basketball court and I shot 10 shots. I missed all 10.
But you took 10 shots.
They're all layups too, by the way.
So now you do that for 10 weeks, and come back to us and we'll see how many you make.
Maybe I'll make one.
Sorry, make you feel better. I hurt my back last week playing basketball, so we're in the same boat. Both not a lot of wins.
So blockchain is in the description. I think I heard 3 other letters that I really have tried to understand but can't understand. An NFT, like. Is there an NFT in this? Like, can you walk through that whole thing that I don't understand?
That was a last minute addition. Stan can definitely talk about, because it was really unique and really.
You don't understand it either? Is that why, Josh?
Me? No, I understand it, but at the surface level. That's why, I know my lane, and it's not quite there yet. We're getting there. But, we got a great team around us, and that's what I trust these guys for. That's why I'm going to kick it to Stan. Also, because it was really his innovation and another team member of ours, kind of last minute, and then Stan figured out a way to integrate it into what we were already going to launch. So I don't want to take away any of the thunder. We'll just say that, Zach.
Yeah. So blockchain is a great technology if you actually understand it. What it can do is it's awesome. We've all seen Ethereum, Bitcoin. Those are just the surface layer stuff that people generally understand. But from the basis, it's a vehicle for a in the sense that we use it as for security. You've heard the term tokens before. If you think of tokens as shares, they're synonymous. When you purchase a stock from the stock market, you're getting a one of 100 that's specifically yours, can't be forged, can't be duplicated. But there's a lot of stuff that goes in. There's a whole back office approach that goes into ensuring that. With blockchain, it's almost like buying a stock, but instead of having to deal with a lot of the back office hoopla, the average person can create something that there's only one of it, or there's a batch of it, and beyond that batch of 1,000 or however many you make, there's no more. So seeing the power and being able to do that, really it gives people the ability to create securities offerings for a specific entity that can no longer be forged or what's the term that I'm looking for? Duplicated.
Yeah.
Without the owner's permission.
Right. Or counterfeited even. Yeah.
Correct. And then also, once again, when it takes a lot of that back office process out, there's no longer the need for having a completely separate accounting system, because where you can see every transaction on the ledger, and those transactions can't be forged. People can begin to custody their own securities, almost like when, back in the day when you could get the paper version of your stock. That was you custodying your own security. So it gives you a lot of power, a lot of flexibility when it comes to it. How we're integrating it is very much in a securities manner. There's a lot of integration that's left to do. It's not fully integrated on the MVP whatsoever. But really what we've done is we're offering an NFT, which stands for non-fungible token, which is, we call it's a reservation NFT, because currently this deal is in what's called testing the waters, which means it's not a live offering quite yet. We're waiting on some forms to get done. But what it provides those people who have said, hey, I want to invest, essentially what it is a capital call. They have a NFT, which in this case is actually a little image of the house. I wish I had one to show you, but it's a little image of the house that, people who own that particular NFT have early access to the offering since they've done a reservation. So once that offering goes live, we'll do a capital call. The people who have that NFT, we can see who they are. We can verify it, have access to purchase their shares before it goes to the general public.
Follow-up question to that you guys have a WeFunder campaign that's been that ongoing, which is another great way to determine who your early supporters are.
Yeah.
What did you learn along the process of doing a campaign on WeFunder?
So we learned quite a bit. One of the things is we know who we're looking for, our target audience, who's going to use the platform on the consumer side, because those same people who are using the platform on, who are investing on the WeFunder are the same people who are in our Discord, who are the most passionate about the project. Generally their ages are, once again, like 18 to about 30 is what we found. And they're really emotionally invested in the project. They want to see it do good. They've put their hard-earned capital into us, and trust us to be able to execute and get a product out and continue to grow the company.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that a lot of people are afraid to do. They're afraid to put something out there because they don't want to hear any potential bad news. They don't want someone to tell you that the product sucks. But if you do put it out there, the feedback that you can get, or the direction that people are going to tell you that they want the product to go, they're giving you the roadmap in terms of what features and functionality you should add to version 2, 3, and beyond.
Exactly.
100%. And we, one of the things, and this is when it comes back to the pitching, we've pitched, we've had one big batch where we talked to VCs very early on. It was way before MVP. We got feedback that we didn't necessarily like, but we needed it. And just by putting ourselves out there, we've avoided making a lot of mistakes and answered a lot of questions that we're like, oh, we got this figured out, but we really didn't have it figured out.
Yeah.
So, anything with sales, or just in life, you got to put yourself out there. You got to be able to take the no's, the hard no's, and the soft ones. So that's one thing. You can't be afraid to put yourself out there, especially and it's, don't get me wrong, it's scary. You don't want to hear somebody tell you your idea is dumb or it's not going to work, or somebody else is going to do it better. But I mean, that's just the name of the game.
They say the number one fear is public speaking. To me, that it's not. It's just rejection. Because why would people not want to public speak? They don't want to be. They're afraid to not be accepted. What they're saying is not accepted. So it's one of the things we focus on is how do we know if we don't know? And the only way we're going to know is the more shots you take. Like we said earlier, law of averages. It's a numbers game. If you put more in the top, it's going to come down in the bottom. And along that journey through that top of the funnel down to the bottom, you learn a lot. And then from there, you adapt, you grow, you apply it. And then at the end, that's where you see success. But no one sees all the shots, right? But you got to keep taking them, because the people that succeed don't give up.
Another thing that was interesting too is that you guys you had one approach in terms of, I can't remember, was it TikTok or was it Snapchat, where you're engaging with the public, but then you had a minor pivot, you threw something on Twitter, and then that kind of blew up, and then you're like, man, our audience is on Twitter. What take us through that little micro journey, if you will.
Yeah, and I think that's marketing, and that's something I see. A lot of times people think with marketing or trying to just, like you said, reach an audience, they think, okay, well, if I just fire across everything and just keep going and going and going and going, eventually that works out too. But you also have to refine that process and figure out, like you just said, where is our audience, right? Like, why would we as a company spend, $5,000 on paid ads on Instagram, but we get no engagement, right? Nothing's coming from it. Versus, oh, wait a second, let's be, analytical here. Let's take our shots, let's put it out there, but let's also look at the data and let that also help guide the way. So for us, that was a big thing. Social media is obviously going to be a huge way we market. In a lot of ways it's free. And who doesn't have social media? Most people, right? And so for us, it was, okay, let's take a step back. Let's look at the numbers. We've been doing this long enough where we have compiled data, and we went, wow, we get the best results from Twitter. And, I think, Tim, you and I talked about this a little bit, and Stan as well. We were all there. Part of that is just because that seems to be the go-to platform more people trust for more of social engagement, but also for more serious, right? And it seems to be the preferred platform. And I think you would even agree with me. I see you're pretty active on Twitter. So for us, it was looking at it and going, okay, let's keep putting things out across Instagram, but let's pivot a lot of our focus and more intentional content to our audience and where they are. So yeah, that was a very, I think a journey that at first, to be honest, I thought, oh, it's going to be Instagram. It's going to be, these TikTok reels. But really, if you think about what those platforms are used for, it's not quite even what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's interesting, especially because around here locally, at least in the 757 Hampton Roads area, Twitter's it's not really utilized. It's interesting. Like, even with people on the show, it's like, hey, what's your Twitter handle, so that we can, when we do release the show, we can mention you and we can cross communicate or market, if you will. And not a lot of people around here have it. And I really think it's an opportunity missed, and Twitter has worked well for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is, I never thought about that, Tim, until you just said it. So that's
yeah. I'm curious, Josh, how long is it going to take before you rebrand the current Pocket Properties purple to the actual hex code of Ravens purple?
Yeah, that's been a slow process. We got some Steelers fans on the team. Oh man, I know, right? That's the face I like to see, Zach.
To answer your question, Tim, just so that we get this out in the public, some are saying that the Browns are going to release Baker Mayfield and the Steelers would pick him up. Wouldn't that be something if he goes to the Steelers and has a 15-year career there? That would be very interesting. Just to get it on the record out there.
It won't matter. We'll help him set an interception record either way.
There you go. All right. Is there anything we haven't talked about that you want to talk about?
I think no, this was great. I mean, it's always fun whenever we get a chance to talk to you guys, and anything, with Start Wheel and anything, has been great, and great experience. So I don't know, Stan, do you have anything off the top of your head? I mean, I guess the big thing is, if you're interested, we're super open. We're out there, check out our WeFunder. Our website is live. We're also pretty active on Discord. So if you really want to connect with us and you really want to ask Stan or I something directly, we will respond. That's really us. Same thing. You could shoot me something on Twitter. There you go. And we'd love to answer questions or connect with any audience or anybody that wants to know more about us.
Awesome.
Anything
All right.
else?
Well, yeah, I wish you guys continued success. It's been fun watching your journey thus far, and you're just getting started. So I'm super excited for you guys.
That's right. Yeah, we're super excited too. Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for the
Thank you.
support as well. Thank you.
See you guys soon. Peace.
All right. Take care.